So again, that's back to we've tried to be, with foresight, think about these types of issues, but, to Ken's credit, he's like, don't build it and I'm going to maintain it. And
I need it.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't need extra things to worry about.
Yes.
Places for people to just sit on the side of Central Pratt.
One question.
Mhm.
So we have this elementary school that belongs to Westlake. Did we get the permit to build a street to get it inside Westlake? So we don't have to go through Orange to the elementary?
So,
Yeah, well, what we're in the process, there is a new pod coming in. It's going to be called the Pines. It's Pod V, but it's the Pines, and there's a linear lake that runs east and west from the future river bend at the circle. You'll be able to come down, and as you not have to go into the community, but there's a multimodal path that runs along the lake bank all the way to 140th, and then up 140th to the boundary of the school at elementary school there, with a turnabout that we've already designed so that you can take your child to the elementary or the junior high in your golf cart all the way from your house, drop them off, pick them up. And we've worked with the school board to put gates and stuff in there that they will open during school hours for drop-offs and pickups and close, just like the rest of their campus. So we're already anticipating and working with Mr. Carter and his team to make sure that that happened properly.
so somewhat compounding that issue, if I may, recall currently there's ongoing litigation between Minto, Seminole Improvement District, and Indian Trail Improvement District that is currently centered on the future connection of Persimmon at 140th. I say it's not centered on that. I'm incorrect. The district, Indian Trails, my allegation is improperly blocked a historical access point there. Indian Trails, again, my belief, done that presumptively with the notion knowing at some point in the future, there will be a future Persimmon connection there. So all that's done is accelerated that issue to today, meaning that future Persimmon connection, which is now part of the subject of the litigation that's ongoing. I have no idea how long that's going to take, but you have my commitment. I will fight that fight as long as I need to fight it. If that's the last breath I take, I'm going to have that fight. But in the meanwhile, we knew now that we are looking at our first development east of Riverbend. So Riverbend connects Town Center Parkway North and Persimmon, a little loop there. So now we are working on our planning for our first pods east of Riverbend. We're going to center it up around the elementary and middle school. And when we started laying out that pod, we very mindfully knew it may be unclear for a long time when we could get a Persimmon connection where we would extend the multimodal path to get up to the school. So as part of our design of this new pod, which you will be seeing soon, we have structured a lake. So most of our lakes generally kind of, center within a pod or, and mainly run north-south. That's our main drainage flow from the north to the south. In this instance, we oriented a very significant lake going east-west. So it basically goes from Riverbend all the way over to 140th. And we put a multimodal path all the way around this lake. So you won't have to go into a pod. We didn't want golf carts cutting through a neighborhood to get into, this multimodal path to get up to the school. So we actually did something fairly innovative. I can't wait for you to look at that. We fronted homes on this, the front of the home is on the lake. It's really interesting. And so that way you're not running a multimodal path through someone's backyard. And we've turned it into a wonderful community element. And so as a resident in Meadows or Groves, you'll be able to come along Persimmon, up along Riverbend, turn into what will futurely be called the Pines and the Oaks, two major new pods. And this linear lake will basically be a dividing line. And so without ever going into the community, Oaks or Pines, you'll be able to go on the multimodal path adjoining this lake and get up to the school.
Via golf.
So we've really, on a golf cart, so and you're not going behind a gate, you're not going behind a home. And so we've tried to do some things really creative with our land plan here. Yeah.
And I just wanted to add, because there's two connections to the east on your eastern border. He's mentioned Persimmon. And as his attorney, I'll ask him not to say anything further on that regard, given pending litigation. But I did also want to mention 60th Street, which we have completed the dedication. We haven't completed it because the county hasn't asked us to complete it, but we've completed it for all intents and purposes. But they did recently place the design of 60th Street west of 140th, which is through Westlake, in their 5-year plan. The construction is not in their 5-year plan, but that's a good sign. It wasn't in their 5-year plan before, so they can always change that. But I just they update that every year. It did make it into the 5-year plan last June, I think, is when they updated that. So just an additional improvement in your boundaries that I thought you'd know.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
As far as 60th, are we pushing to have some type of sound barrier between 60th and Westlake?
We'll work. Haven't had any discussions with the design team yet from the county, but when they start coming in and start getting some information, we'll definitely put in some kind of a requirement for sound barrier or something out there so that it does minimize the impact from
Yeah.
60th. It may be an increased landscape buffer, because what I'm hearing is they're not necessarily doing they have 100-foot right of way
Mhm.
that's going to be given to them. As an example, Persimmon is an 80-foot right of way, which gives you 2 lanes, ultimately 2 lanes each direction with a median and landscape buffers on the side. So with a 100-foot right of way, they should be able to do enough to mitigate sound traveling into the community without creating too much issue for them.
Okay,
Yeah,
I hope so.
push it.
And if I may, City Manager, to that comment also, Councilman Martinez, when we designed hammocks and then meadows and I forget the one where next to the meadows, woodlands, thank you, and now the pines, as we've designed all those communities, you'll notice we put a very large, not only do you have the landscaping buffer, but we also put a lake there. So there's quite a bit of distance. So that distance, in addition to whatever softscape, which is my belief that you'll need to headlock the county in to do. We felt that as we laid out those communities along the northern boundary, the giving them ample room to do that softscaping and giving them, vertical or horizontal spacing would really mitigate a lot of those sound issues.
Okay, great. Yeah, I would hate, anyone that lives or backs up to it to have a noise issue.
We'll also probably try to push them on a multimodal path along 60th as well.
Gotta have the multimodal path. That's,
So I mean, there's ample room, for them. What I'm saying is within 100-foot right of way,
Okay.
there's ample room on the south side of that because they can shift to the north, because to the north, there's an 80-foot easement that goes to the Palm Beach, city of Palm Beach. And then there's the canal and stuff. So there's like 300 feet or 400 feet or more to the first house on the north. So they don't really need to do much there. They can shift the road further north, giving us more buffer on the south side. So that's what we'll push as far as their initial design.
Great.
goals and objectives, strategic ones. What else we have?
Were you going to bring up the Happy program again? You said, Ken, or is that for another day?